You guys really thought I was done, huh? Well, so did I, but I guess not. On November 5th, 2008, only 6 months after the first Kung Fu Panda movie came out, along with its movie tie-in game, Activision decided it was a great idea to sell a completely separate tie-in game to the first Kung Fu Panda movie in the same year, this time exclusively on Nintendo consoles. This game would be called Kung Fu Panda Legendary Warriors, also known as the most forgotten Kung Fu Panda video game of all time, the one you probably didn't even know existed. It only sold 70,000 copies on the Wii. It's definitely not the worst selling game on the system, but it's surprising considering how popular the Kung Fu Panda name is. I'm going to be taking a look at the Wii version of this game, but I think it's cool that this game actually uses connective features with the DS version to unlock bonus content, which only a few games did back in the day. But with that aside, let's take a look at the forgotten Kung Fu Panda video game. The first thing I want to mention is that this game has a pretty cool story. It really reminds me of one of those direct-to-DVD sequels, and I mean that in the best way possible, as most movie games don't really bother with story at all. The story consists of Tai Lung returning and kidnapping rabbits and some of the Furious 5 members to use them as power to get revenge after his defeat in the first movie. In this game's context, the first movie game, as this is not a sequel to the movie, but rather the video game, as it sees the return of characters who appeared in the Kung Fu Panda game, like the Wu sisters, which is pretty cool, honestly. I also wanted to mention that I really like the cutscenes here. They don't use in-game models, but they're more like 2D slideshow animations. The art style kind of reminds me of the Nut Shack. Take that as you will. Story aside though, the game itself is a beat 'em up. Pretty simple. Only that it's a beat 'em up released on the Wii. So the gameplay pretty much consists of...
Oh yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Are we there yet? Are we there?
But even despite this, I found the motion controls in this game, compared to most games, to be pretty cool, as they introduce a lot of combat mechanics, like tracing symbols with the Wiimote for special attacks, which, I mean, though cool, can be kind of insufferable at times, but they also got a good variety of combos going on with the Wiimote and Nunchuck, and in every stage there's like 3 rabbits just scattered around, and if you get them all, then you can unlock a super attack, which makes you very powerful and pretty much invincible. All these make the combat very fun and kind of engaging, especially considering it's, you know,
Wiimotion Plus! Wiimotion Plus! Wiimotion!
There's also a variety of characters to use, but you can only use one per playthrough, which is pretty dumb as I wanted to switch up the gameplay. I will also say, this game looks very nice for Wii standards. It has very good looking environments, though when it comes to the gameplay itself again, it's clearly built on a repetition. There's only 5 8 to 10 minute stages where you beat up a bunch of enemies, followed by a boss fight and some motion control events. These motion control events can range from pretty cool to absolutely insufferable. Speaking of insufferable, these boss fights absolutely suck. They're pretty much just damage sponges that give you carpal tunnel, and in between hits, they'll send some minions that you fought previously to prolong the fight. All these bosses are pretty much copy and paste, only getting a little bit harder, with the final boss, Tai Lung, even sending out whole bosses after you in between attacks. It's just as bad as it sounds. But after beating Tai Lung, it's over. The game is over, and if you're like me, who beat this game in one sitting, you'll be very happy at that fact. This game is honestly very short, less than an hour and a half. That's insane, but because it has you waggling the Wiimote and Nunchuck non-stop, it feels much longer than that, so I think the completion time is actually pretty warranted. Now, if you're a psycho who uses this game as some sort of cryptic exercise routine, there's actually a bit of replay value here. You could try getting all the A ranks in every stage, which is kind of hard to do, and they even have 2 harder versions of the story if you're into that masochist thing. But aside from that, there's also a 4-player versus mode, which I'd argue is truly the main course of this game. It plays pretty much the same as the story, but you do 4-player carpal tunnel battles, complete with characters you unlock through beating the story, or using the DS version of the game to connect for bonus content. Overall, there's really not much to say here. This is going to be a very short video, as it's a very short game. game. It doesn't have much to it. It's also a very easy game for me to shit on, but honestly, I'm not gonna do that. This game isn't meant to be a full experience. It's not even meant to be a movie tie-in game, as that already exists. Rather, I see this as a cheap expansion to the existing Kung Fu Panda movie game, a little detour from the main line, if you will. Despite its limited gameplay, it actually works with what it has, offering for some fun combos and even playstyles, and I gotta give it respect for that. But even so, even though this game isn't that bad, it's definitely not one I would recommend. But it's definitely not hard to see why this game was completely forgotten. It was probably overshadowed by the much better and much more real Kung Fu Panda video game releasing the same year, along with every motion control based Wii game in 2008. But with that out of the way, I have now covered every single Kung Fu Panda video game. I might release a complete retrospective to end it all, but aside from that, I'll see you guys in the next one.
No, wait, you can't be done. What about the DS game?